Hello everybody, this is Nian here, bringing you the first semi-final of DreamHack Valencia 2012. It is going to be on Ohana, which means family, if you didn't already know. And it is going to be between Quantic.TheSTC up in the top corner as the red Terran, and as the blue Terran it's going to be M胱ForGG, who has recently become Millennium's primary player. Well, not really recently, he's been Millennium's primary player since Stefano left about 2-3 months ago. I think he left early September. So ForGG being the premier player for Millennium. But we're going to see pretty much identical, well, symmetrical builds from the start. The supply depots aren't that much delayed from each other, and they're both in exactly the same place. So it's going to be a Terran versus Terran, a good old mirror matchup. Usually they sort of sometimes decide to throw out quite weird builds, just keep each other on the toes instead of just the normal in Protoss versus Protoss, who has more Colossi. It's going to be a weird barracks placement for the STC, and who presumably wants to, if ForGG decides to scout, presumably wants to juke ForGG into thinking that he's going for a quick expand. So ForGG tries to pile on the pressure. But ForGG is going for the wall-off barracks placement because in this corner you can actually get a tech lab or reactor on the barracks. But ForGG is also going for a quick gas, so we might see a 1-on-1 out of ForGG, or just a transition into general mech play. But it looks as though we're going to have an orbital command coming out for ForGG at some point. There it is, and the same for the STC. So very much mirroring each other at the moment. ForGG gets just completing a wall off, and there is now no escape for that lone SCV. But the barracks is going to, well, both barracks are churning out Marines. The STC, seeing that ForGG has gone for a wall-off, is going to himself wall-off by the look of it, knowing that ForGG isn't going for an early-on expand, and looks as though he is in fact going for a 1-on-1. The STC will see this, and is instantly taking double gas, knowing that mech play is on the way, as well as taking the CC for the expansion, because now that there's a factory going down and not another 2 barracks, it's unlikely that there's going to be any additional pressure in the short term. So presumably we're going to see a bunker down on the low ground, just to make sure that any pressure is defended. And strange that nothing's getting mined off these 2 mineral patches. Deciding to pair up the outer mineral patches, which are, by the looks of it, slightly closer to the command center, so it's slightly more efficient. But we are seeing Hellions come out for ForGG as the reactor completes, so reactor Hellions presumably coming up, and a starport as well, so we might be seeing Cloaked Banshee actually. Or just, if it's going for that reactor, then we might see Medivacs, and ForGG might just be duking into quite a bio-based build. But there is the reactor coming down for ForGG, not ForGG, for the STC, as well as the factory. And the orbital command is going to finish up on the natural shortly, so double mules, double income pretty much. However, there is no starport yet for the STC, as the neutral supply depot gets taken out, and there is the starport, slightly delayed. But the STC has decided to go for the bigger economy. ForGG just hanging back at the top of the ramp. It looks as though he might decide to go for a tiny bit of early on pressure. But both players fairly close to the supply caps. But there's the tech lab going down on the factory, so we might see a flip and change the factory for the starport by the looks of the timings. And possibly Cloak Banshees, possibly a Raven, possibly even go for a battle cruiser at some stage, if only. But it looks as though ForGG will start to move out, and oh, that is not the best time for the STC to put down the supply depots. He really wants to have that wall off just to stay there and he might just want to retreat that expansion. But there go the supply depots. The Marines fall back slightly as they start to target down the medevac. There is no stim or combat shields on anything. Reactor goes down. The Viking comes out and the medevac will fall. No, the medevac just gets away by the skin of its teeth. That supply depot goes down. The STC is now supply blocked. And 2 Hellions go down, but there is a greater Hellion Marine force. But the Viking lands, and 4GG's aggression is punished. And if we look at the resources lost, it is pretty even there. The STC managing to hold on with that lone tank, and the Viking is on pretty much decent health. So it looks as though that the STC was going to try and follow up with some more aggression of his own, but that was quickly countered. And now there's a third CC coming down, as well as presumably stepping up into, yes, Ravens and a tech lab on the factory. So more siege tanks presumably, or possibly Thors. But here comes some more Hellion pressure from 4GG. Don't know how well those siege tanks will be able to stand up to this Hellion pressure, but one thing's for sure, those drones, this isn't Zerg, those SCVs won't be able to stand up to it as well. But we're going to have a congregation of Hellions pushing up into the natural. That probe will just get instantly obliterated, and those SCVs are just getting evacuated and lining up. Probably not the best place to put them. One Hellion is on so low health. Though one tank's gonna fall. Supply depot is raised. Auto turret comes down. Vikings are forced to land, and I don't think that there's going to be enough forces out for 4GG. Not for 4GG, for STC. Having to lower the supply depots just so that tank can get a shot off. The auto turret picking off some Hellions and Marines where it can. But is siege tech on the way? Yes, it is. As well as, however, Blue Flame has just been started for 4GG. So presumably that tank will siege up as and when it can. So there's siege tech, and there's a sieging up. And there is your mobile turret. However, that command center will need to get the command center will need to get repaired as soon as possible. I think it's just being used as bait now. It's gonna land, and there'll need to be something down to fix it. There's a couple of mules. I don't know if mules can repair. Can mules? Yes, mules can repair. But it'll need to be fixed up at some stage. And there's the SCV. But good defense from the STC. And it looks as though 4GG is going to continue with the pressure, building more tanks of his own and more Hellions, as well as some Vikings. So 4GG going with a very mech route, taking double gas on his expansion, and the STC has already taken double gas on his expansion. So it looks as though STC is going to be geared up better for the longer macro game with his 3 orbital commands, and he's just adding on a lot more barracks. I think that's 4 at the moment, all getting, well, 2 with tech labs. So Marauders going to be decent against tanks, and 1-1 on the way. However, 4GG is going to have no upgrades by the looks of it. And there's going to be the scouting barracks, a clear indicator of mech, because who needs bio when you're going mech? Quite like the scouting factory when you're going bio. But the OC is going to float over to the natural. Double gas going to be taken on the 3rd as well. So those players either going to go heavy upgrades, yeah, stim and combat shield on the same at the same time, and more tech labs and the reactor. So there are going to be a lot of Marauders popping out. But I think the Hellions were scouted out by those 2 Marines, may they rest in peace. But the Vikings are heading out, and the Raven is heading out towards the 3rd. The 3rd is scouted. But those Hellions, they're going to just keep roasting everything. Siege tanks fall, the probes have been pulled, the Vikings have landed, and those tanks, they have siege tech, but STC cannot actually raise a supply depot, and the Vikings are going to start to tear through things. Siege tech comes out, and he's able to start pick off some of the Vikings, but the Vikings take off just in time. Siege tech on the low ground, but that orbital command's going to get taken down by the Vikings. The barracks will fall eventually. That worker gets taken out, and the refinery as well. Things are not looking too rosy for the STC. The Vikings are going to come back across, presumably going to land just to pick off those two. Yeah, there's one landing Viking, and the scouting factory just making sure that the tanks can that are into range of the barracks. But the barracks lift off, and now they're able to get picked off by the Vikings. The engineering bay isn't that vital at the moment. It's got 1-1 it's 1-1, but the ultimate sign of mana, as the STC just streams in his marauders into the tank line, managing to take all of the tanks out, and that might actually be a decent defense. However, at the moment, it is one functional mining base, if that, is getting mined out very heavily, to 3, and the Hellions have landed again, and there's the medevacs coming out. So STC is going to have to stutter step for his life, managing to take out a couple of Hellions, and by the looks of it, one Viking before he can't do anything else. And there's the GG, and Mného does take the first game in quite a dominant, aggressive fashion. Anyway, I've been Nian, and we are going to go on to game 2.